Welcome to The Needs Languages. I am glad you are here. Today we are going to talk about the leadership mirror and why we often treat our managers like the authority figures from our past. In our last conversation, we explored how your personal behavioral blueprint follows you into the office. Today, we're focusing on a specific, powerful dynamic, how this manifests in our relationship with leadership. When you sit across from a manager, you aren't just engaging in a professional exchange. Because of the way we are wired, we often subconsciously project our past onto our supervisors. If you grew up with a caregiver who was critical, you might find yourself hyper-vigilant for rejection from your manager, even when the feedback is objectively neutral. Conversely, if you were raised in an environment where your needs were ignored, you might find yourself unconsciously testing your boss to see if they will show up for you in the way you once needed. At the same time, this works both ways. Leaders are not immune to these dynamics. A leader who has an unaddressed need for control or validation often ends up projecting that need onto their team. They may micromanage, not because the work requires it, but because they are subconsciously trying to resolve an old insecurity about their own competence or safety. When this happens, the leadership mirror becomes distorted. Instead of a professional relationship based on shared goals, the dynamic becomes a reenactment of old, unresolved narratives. So, how do we break the cycle? As an employee, practice reality testing. When you feel a strong, immediate emotional reaction to your boss's behavior, stop and ask, is this reaction appropriate for the current situation, or am I reacting to a version of my past? As a leader, recognize that your team is not your family. They are not responsible for meeting your emotional needs. Developing this awareness shifts you from being an actor in an old script to an intentional leader who manages based on the present reality. This is the second part of our 6-part series on how our growing up impacts our workplace dynamics. Remember to like, share, and subscribe so you can see our next video on how individual wounds can turn an entire team into a toxic ecosystem.